This is President Jason Wright, and you're listening to Rambling About Washington.
Today, I'd like to welcome on to the Rambling with Rio channel the best combination of analysis and shtick on the radio and local media. I got my guy, friend of the show, Grant Paulsen, new friend of the show, funny Danny Rouhier, or as Bruce Allen would say, Dave. Grant and Dave. Welcome to the show, guys.
Appreciate you.
You're ahead of Bruce
man.
already, Rio, because you got Danny right.
I know, man. How you doing this morning, Dave?
I know, great. That thing stuck, man. I mean, all it took was Bruce Allen being handed an index card of who he was talking to, trying to be politician Bruce, and just butchering that. It just lives forever. But my favorite part about that, well, there's 10 favorite parts about that, honestly. Like, I could pick a different one every second. But so, you know, when you're on the radio, if like you just tune in, sometimes you hear guys talking to a guest. You're like, well, who are they talking to? So you do what's called a reset, right? No, nothing revolutionary there. I reset every time I asked a question. Grant and Danny on 106.7 The Fan, just to let him know that I knew that you didn't say the right name, jackass.
Oh, man.
I still want to know, like, did he mess it up, or did the PR person who I'm friendly with, Tony, did he give him a card where he just wrote the wrong name down? Yeah. Like, did he write Grant and Dave, and Bruce is going, hello, Grant and Dave?
And Dave.
Or did he just not know, and he he thought it was Dave? I would love to know the answer to that.
I mean, that shit is such an anomaly to me, because he called Kirk Cousins Kurt the whole time that he was in Washington. So I'm convinced that whatever he thought your name was the first time he read it on a car, he just stuck with it at that point. And you know what I'm saying? He just made that shit happen. But we're 6 weeks into the season. We're going to Green Bay, so things get easier this week. Not really. And we're 2-4. What is the current state of the franchise for the Washington football team? I'll start with you, Grant. What the hell is what direction and identity does this team currently sit at this current juncture?
Yeah, I'll focus on the on-field product, and if Danny wants to, he can go with the nonsense off the field. I mean, on the field, things have been really disappointing, to be honest with you. I had no delusions of grandeur after the 7-9 division title. We talked on your show a while back, and you know how I felt. Like, I was thrilled that they won the division. They took advantage of a bad division, but I thought there were going to be some growing pains, and they had a brutal schedule. But even by those standards, it's hard not to be a little bit disappointed with the offseason so far. I mean, the first-round pick, Jamin Davis, it looks like he's a real project, to be kind. Your big money man at corner, William Jackson, whose AAV's well within the top 10 at the position in the National Football League, does not look like that's what you got. And we can go round and around, obviously, but, between the decisions with not having competition for Dustin Hopkins and saying he's your guy when he's struggling, and 3 weeks ago, maybe on the Junkie saying there's not a problem here. Now he's made 7 of 8 kicks since, and only one he missed was one they shouldn't have even attempted, in my opinion, because they should have been going for more fourth downs against the Chiefs. Now he's a problem, and you're cutting him. Like, the whole thing's been awkward to me. Last week we had Rivera getting real snippy with the media and getting real defensive. I think he's not used to some of the pushback he's getting in the market right now. Yeah, so it's ugly, man. They need a win. You can kind of smell it and see it. You know what it looks like? When I was on the beat, there were times where things were getting sideways, and you're like, all right, they really need a win to keep some things from getting off the rails. And we're there already 7 games into this season here in week 7.
For me, the words are the same. It's the same. And we're we do a perpetual cycle with Snyder and his ownership, and his awful ownership, by the way, his embarrassing ownership, where he pretends to prostrate himself before us as fans and give us a little piece of red meat and tell us how personally upset he is by all this. He emerges from his cave once every 4.5 years or so, usually about 4 years, tells us this is unacceptable. We've got a hero. We've got a new savior for you guys. It's been on the business side. It's been Brian Lafemina. Now it's Jason Wright. On the coaching side, it was Mike Shanahan, a guy with great rep. Now this was Ron Rivera's turn to run everything. A guy had been a coach, and I wanted him, by the way. I advocated for Ron Rivera. The instant he got fired in Carolina, I said to Grant, they should go hire that guy right now, this minute. And I was excited about Ron Rivera and how quickly times had turned. But to me, it's we're in that part of the cycle now where it's new, it's different. Guys, trust us, it's totally different. And we rise up and everybody says, give him some time, give him some time. It doesn't go very well. Curious decisions are made because too much power is given to one person, in this case, Ron Rivera. Grant touched on some of those things that just are baffling, that don't make any sense, that aren't consistent, that don't jive. And next thing you know, you lose a bunch of games because you're not good. And you sort of get frustrated at some of the planning things, let alone the off-field nonsense of DEA, emails, Sean Taylor memorial botch. The whole thing is just so embarrassing. One cluster after another. And we're now part of the downward cycle, which is enough bad stuff happens. Dan gets fed up, rears his ugly head, power struggle. People inside the building cover their ass, and they want to tell you, well, that good pick, that was me, but the bad pick, the free agent, that was a Ron pick or something like that. You hear all the leaks and stuff like that come out, and then that person gets blown out, and we do the cycle over again. We're in that sort of downhill slope, I think, on that cycle, and it got there quickly. Grant and I've talked about this a million times. The lowest I've ever felt as a WFT, now then Redskins fan, was at the end of Mike Shanahan's tenure, because that was the adult. That was the adult was brought in to clean up this crap, and even he couldn't do it. And we parsed up who's to blame, how much of each, and whatever. I don't care to re-legislate that. But at the end of Mike Shanahan, when every week was a rumor and every week was another embarrassment, people are planting stories with Adam Schefter and then counter stories with Ron Jaworski or whoever the hell else, Ian Rappaport has a story, Lock and Four's got a story. Everything was embarrassing. They're pissing on each other through the media. That was the lowest I ever felt as a fan. And this is coming close to that, honestly, with all the embarrassment and Rivera looking like he just kind of, they're bucking Broncos and he has nothing to do as he's trying to ride out the storm here.
Man, and it does feel like another rinse, wash, repeat cycle. And I hate to say it because it's so soon in the tenure of this regime, but it just seems like we cannot get away from the conglomerate and clusterfuck of ineptitude here. It seems like it just follows us. Doesn't it feel like every NFL story that comes out with a negative connotation somehow links to Ashburn? It feels like every possible bad story comes back to Ashburn in some way, which takes me to my next point. You said the lowest you felt was the end of Shanahan's tenure. Maybe the highest I felt as a recently turned 30-year-old was 2012 RG3. So from that low point to that high point, where are we at in that rankings right now? Like, where are we at in the middle of there right
now? That's a good question. I'm approaching that same, that basically that 2013 season when people were openly talking about, well, Griffin will come back and they'll go 12-4. People were talking about, NFC championship type stuff. The hype was very real. And the combination of having Mike Shanahan, I disagree with a lot of things that he had done previously, but whatever, who cares? They've got the quarterback. I've got NFC East friends who are going, oh my God, we have to deal with this guy for the next 10 years. We're screwed. We're screwed. You finally have it. And really believing in my heart that it had finally changed. They had the most important position in sports on lock, and then we know how all that stuff ended. I can't possibly feel the same because it wasn't as high to me. 7-9 in a crappy. Jay Gruden went 7-9 3 out of the last 4 years, and everybody hated his guts. Or 2 out of the last 3 years. And we've gone 7-9 3 out of the last 4 years, but everybody hated Jay Gruden, but they love Ron Rivera because in Ron we trust, though, or whatever. So I wasn't as high after last year as I was in 2012 because we had it. We had the thing that's eluded us since Joe Theismann broke his leg. And it's ironic. It was a leg injury, obviously, that sort of, made the thing kind of unravel. But I would say, yeah, I am not to that level yet. That was the most disappointed I could possibly be was 2013. It's now, I'm numb to it in a way. I'm now like, I can't possibly ever be that crestfallen again. My hopes will never get that high. So I'd ultimately say if that was a 10 out of 10 disappointment, I'm at a solid 7. Just kind of, I know how this is going to end. I might watch the movie, but I know how it's going to end.
Yeah, for me, the Sean Taylor storyline this past week got me. It really hurt me. You try not to let that show on the air, or you try not to let that be a part of how you cover it. But we're both fans of this team. That's why we got into this. And I just, if you guys listen to the show, like, I refuse to believe that this was this last second, like, thrown together plan to distract. I don't know if they've earned the benefit of the doubt, but I wanted to give them that benefit of the doubt and assume that that wasn't the case. And as all the evidence has kind of come out now here lately, it's hard to assume that anything else happened. So that kills me. Really, really hurts, because I think that they just screwed this up really bad, which in and of itself is a terrible thing. But if this was actually something nefarious, where they were trying to kind of reinvigorate the base through Sean posthumously, that stings, man. But I'll say this, on the field, I don't feel nearly as bad as Danny does. I don't think it's ever as bad as it looks, right? I mean, last year, I thought they were really lucky to get to 7-9. I didn't think they were that good. I thought they were probably more like a 4 or 5 win team in his first season. And, whether it was backup quarterbacks they got to beat, or playing on a neutral site, or getting Pittsburgh on short rest, like some lucky things happened in a terrible division. Now they're probably not as bad as they're going to be at the end of this, what I'm calling the varsity portion of their schedule here. They still got some pieces that I like. They got really talented wide receivers with speed. I think that helps. But the bottom line is, Rio, they got to get a quarterback. That's all that matters. Like, you find a way this offseason to get one, and you're really close. And if they don't find a way to get a quarterback, then you're not. And we can kind of talk ourselves into Heineke, who's now struggled in 3 of his last 4 games. I don't know that there's much of a difference between Allen and Fitz and Heineke. Heineke might be able to make more plays with his feet, which is why I'm cool with him being on the field. I like that part of his game when he's scrambling. He chose not to do that for some reason at all, really, against the Chiefs much. But they need a quarterback. So
ultimately, that's the main difference that's gonna change things here. Like, that's like the one constant thing, that no matter how crazy it's gotten off the field, all the stories, all the politics, if we had a special guy at that position, he masks all of that shit on and off the field. I saw Pat Mahomes up close on Sunday at FedEx Field. He probably gave us a D+ performance, and it still amounted to 400 yards and multiple touchdowns. Could you imagine it? Because I cannot imagine it. I've never seen this team win 11 games or get a quarterback to his second contract. So Heineke, now that we actually have tape and more than a little sample size on the guy, he's starting to show us exactly who he is. And the excitement from the small sample size, teams have tape on him now. So he can't just run around and run amok on the NFL like we saw him do the first couple times we've seen him. Do we just ride him out for the rest of the season? Do we make a move for someone? Or do we make a quarterback change in our own room right now? How do we handle the quarterback decision? And does it matter for the rest of this season? Anyone take it?
Go ahead, Jeeps.
So first of all, I'm playing Heineke at the moment. Again, I think his playmaking ability with his feet is a differentiating tool. I really have almost no interest in playing Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I feel bad. It's almost kind of, I don't know if it's ageist is a thing in 2021 that people say, but like, he's old and they're not good, right? So like, I'm not playing a guy who's almost 40 who you're renting for a year, when you could be playing someone younger who might be here, whether that be Heineke as a backup or Allen as a backup. So really, for me, it's about those two guys. I think what I would do is Heineke starts in Green Bay. If he stinks and they're down by a bunch, I'd go to Allen and see how he plays. In general, I think Heineke probably still has the most upside. But I've said all along, people think this is crazy. I think Kyle Allen's probably the best passer in this offense that they've got. I just think that, I just think Heineke with his feet as a dual threat, is probably a better playmaker, which is why I'm fine with them starting him and having Allen coming off the bench. But it's those two dudes for me. And if Heineke, if he doesn't get right, and I think when they play bad defenses, he'll play better. Green Bay, by the way, hasn't got one stop in the red zone all year long. Joe Barry at work, ladies and gentlemen. So maybe they can put some points on the board this week. But that's kind of my plan. I'm rolling with Heineke. I'm going to the bullpen to Kyle Allen in these games where he's really struggling, like the New Orleans game, the Buffalo game, maybe even the Kansas City game. Rivera seems unwilling to do that. And if Allen looks good and plays well, then let it ride. I don't care if they go back and forth between the two all year long. I mean, really, in the grand scheme of the future, I don't think it matters. Like, either both of those guys are here as backups or one of them is, and your starter's not here. That's kind of how I view it.
So I agree with a lot of that. I was on record. I don't do the Ryan Fitzpatrick thing. I don't sign guys like that. I don't play guys like that. The only way I do is if I'm Indianapolis and I have an 11 or 12 win caliber team, and I go get the ghost of Phillip Rivers to check it down for me as I win with defense in a running game. They're not there, and they weren't there. I would never, ever, 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 ever for a single second entertain even the notion. If somebody suggested it, I'd kick them out of the meeting. No to Ryan Fitzpatrick. No journeyman when I'm not any good, please. And thank you, draft a quarterback immediately. Should have done it each of the last 2 seasons. But for the purposes of this one, if this is my view on it. I agree with a lot of what Grant said. My only other addendum to it is this. If they had the weapons that they thought they were going to have, like if Curtis Samuel was healthy and Logan Thomas was healthy and, Antonio Gibson wasn't perpetually injured for the entire week and took Toradol and taped himself up just so he could play on Sundays, I wouldn't mind playing Kyle Allen because to me, a better passer could kind of work with all the weapons. You play point guard, you get the ball out, and let's go do it. I think they're basically running last year's offense again, where they don't have anybody besides McLaurin. Nobody's any good. Nobody scares them. Everything is simplistic. The only thing that's going to help me move the ball a little bit more than average is a playmaker, is a guy that, your play broke down, so now I'm scrambling around and let's run the scramble drill, or he himself can run or do a few other things. And in an offense where there's not a lot of weaponry, I prefer a playmaker over the point guard, if that makes sense. So I agree with Grant. I think Kyle Allen's probably their best passer. He's still in the unacceptable tier for me. So I kind of don't, you're going, well, I got 6 and half a dozen. What do I do? It's all kind of the same. It's all, an inexcusable quarterback situation that should never have been allowed to go on for more than 10 seconds before they addressed it via, draft capital and otherwise. So I would play Heineke. I think he's got the latest deposits have not been good, but he's got enough deposits in the bank of very good that he's earned a little bit more time maybe for me. But I do agree. If it's just a disaster in a game, I don't care about going to the bullpen when it's not working. Play Kyle Allen for a few snaps. But I would say I'm interested in Heineke. I kind of don't really care about the other journeyman.
Okay, so would you guys be upset if they take this next game and it's a bad game, it's another ugly performance by the quarterback, and they say, you know what, let's go get our guy from a couple seasons ago. Hello, how are you doing today this morning? How are you doing, baby? If they say, let's go get Tua Tagovailoa from Miami for, let's say, a 3rd-round pick. If they throw a 3rd-round pick and say, let's see what we can get out of Tua, because I know that was Ron's guys a couple years ago, would that upset you? Or are you just like, let's ride it out with what we have? There's no need to outsource for this season that's already gone awry.
So I'll go first on this one and let GP counter. We got in a heated argument about this yesterday. I'm fully acknowledging. I'm like a dude that hasn't had a date in 3 decades. And someone's like, I can hook you up with my friend. And I'm like, yep, let's go on a date. Let's go get a burrito. Let's go have some margaritas.
Me too. I'm with you.
I was wrong in my evaluation of Tua. I thought he'd be good. He's not good. He's got an injured hip. He crow hops to throw the ball 10 yards. He looks like a small version of the end of Mark Brunell's career. He looks terrible at this point. I'm willing to spend on that. I will try. I will try anything to have an acceptable quarterback, even if it means a reclamation project for a 23-year-old that looks broken and terrible. There's no good track record for them recovering. There's no precedent where a guy, that's only had, what has he had, a dozen or 12 or 13 starts that have been terrible, going to a second team and then somehow turning out good. I just know that someone else's trash could absolutely be my treasure. This is my yard sale. I don't have a good quarterback situation. I am so desperate to address the position. I will try anything, even if it means throwing him a 3rd rounder, throwing him a future, sort of a 2nd and 4th, the way that Carolina did for Sam Darnold, just to see if the stink was Jets or Darnold. Turns out it might be Darnold, by the way, after a nice early start. I'm just so desperate to address the quarterback position. I'll do anything, knowing full well it's probably not going to work. But I'm willing to take a shot at anything at this stage, just to have them acknowledge that it's not okay, that their quarterback position stinks, and I just want them to match my desperation. And Grant had a great line yesterday.
Exactly.
I'll keep him up for this. I think he said being desperate makes you a bad shopper. And I said, yep, you're totally right about that. I'm not in a position of leverage, but I'm fully acknowledging that. All right, so now Grant will tell you why I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think that's insane. I think Tua is not good. And so I'm not giving up anything for Tua. Now, having said that, like if they'll take a late round, I shouldn't say anything. If they want like a 6th round pick, because that's what he's looked like he's worth to this point, bring him in. I mean, let's add another.
Y'all think he's looked that bad? Because I don't think he's looked that bad.
I think he stinks.
I don't think he's looked that bad. I think from his draft
last
position.
Year, remember last year, he and Ryan Fitzpatrick were both in Miami. Fitz was head and shoulders better than him.
And we disagreed about this.
Better than him, okay? They could have made the playoffs if they played Fitz a couple more times, because every time he came into the game, he would come back and win, or the offense would start moving, and then they put Tua in, and it would be just a run the ball and throw to running back fest. And so Fitz is now here, and I don't know that he's better than Heineke. I don't know that he's better than Kyle Allen.
No, he's better. Come on, he's better than Kyle Allen and Tua. I mean, Kyle Allen and Heineke, Grant.
I'm not so sure of that. Like, I think he's a similar. I think they're all pretty similar, to be honest. Maybe he turns the ball over less at this point of his career, possibly. I think they're all about the same, which is like somewhere between the 25th and 35th best quarterback in the league. Okay. And I don't have much interest in that. And I think Tua, when it's all said and done, could be there. Now, if you want to tell me he has more upside than any of those guys, I would buy that. But realize, let's just call it what it is, fellas. The only reason we're intrigued by his upside is because of where he went in the draft. And I would have been wrong on Josh Rosen because of where he went in the draft and taking a flyer. I would have been willing to trade for Darnold. I don't know if that'll be right or wrong, but it doesn't look particularly good right now. Like, where someone went in the draft when we've got a couple seasons worth of info coming in. He's played very little this year, about half the season last year. So I admit that. But we've seen a lot of him. It's not particularly good. So like, you'd have to make me the offer. I'd say yes or no. But I would say if I could give up a 5 and a 6, sure, bring him in. I got another likely backup quarterback, but at least he's got some upside. If I've got, you said a 3, absolutely not. I'm hanging on to my assets. Okay. And you know why? Because you use assets to get a good quarterback. If I give them up for a guy who's probably not good, like Danny's saying you got to do just to try, then when it's time to pay the bill for the good thing, I don't have enough money because I've spent it all on these other things that aren't any good. So I'm holding on to my picks and trading up if I fall in love with a guy. I'm holding on to my picks and trying to trade for whoever Matt Stafford is this year. If that's Derek Carr, if that, fill in the veteran, like that's my plan. But Danny's operating, I think, knowing Danny the way I do, out of fear that they're going to do nothing. Okay. He just assumes that they're going to keep running this back with former Panthers.
And he like should feel that way. He should feel that way at this point.
He thinks Jake Delhomme and Chris Winkie are going to be here in camp this coming year trying to compete for the job. That's his concern. And so because of that, because they're just going to go get some more former Panthers, he's going, let's give up a pick for this guy who's shown almost nothing. And I'm just not willing to do that. I'm just not.
I think, well, I hear both of your sides. And while I lean more towards Danny, I don't think he's been nearly as bad as people have made it. He has not been like Dwayne Haskins. Like, he's actually shown that there's ability there, and he's mechanically sound, and he's technical enough to operate whatever NFL offense I think you throw him in. But I would take a shot on Tua, and I'm going to take a shot, as many shots until we finally get this shit right at the quarterback position, because it feels to me, based on like JP reported yesterday, they're not in love with any other 2022 prospect. They don't want to bring Cam back. They don't want to go after Tua. Who the hell are we going to get to play quarterback here? It feels like we're trending towards like signing Mitch Trubisky next offseason, and that's going to absolutely piss me off. I do not want another like middling to lower end game manager in here. Like, I want someone with at least potential to be special, someone who has the potential, someone who can galvanize the locker room. I don't want Mitch Trubisky here in 2022. And I'm trying to figure out why we would attract someone like Derek Carr Russell Wilson, Rodgers, even Jimmy G. Like, how are we going to get one of those guys here? Like, who wants to sign up right now for the on and off field circus that is the Washington football team? How does a quarterback get acquired here? Is it just
Let me ask you this.
and just losing games? Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. Would you guys rather have Jimmy G in a trade this offseason or trade for Tua?
Tua for me, because it's similar cost and a terrible contract for Garoppolo.
So you said Tua. Yep, Tua.
Yeah, I think Tua, because it's a rookie deal. Now, if you had to extend Tua as part of it, then it gets weird. But like to me, here's what we're talking about: is it's a bunch of dudes that aren't very good. That's what we're talking about. We're just chasing our tails, fellas. One has just a little. One has enough potential that you could see brighter days with her. You know, you could imagine a future with her. Played less. This is what we do. If a guy hasn't had enough time to definitively stink yet, and just most of what we've seen is that he's not that good, we go, well, he's got potential. If Tua was a 3rd round pick, how would you feel about him?
I don't know. I watched him. I'm a Tua mark, so I'm speaking with bias. I like Tua and I like Mac Jones, and I'm dying on both of those hills that they're going to be long-time, very good starters in the NFL. So I'm definitely speaking with bias, and I'm speaking with the same desperation that Danny's speaking, that we have to take every shot possible. We cannot just not go after other people because our last relationships did not work out. Even though it's a lot of relationship and life is probably telling you this is not for you, we have to keep shooting our shots, man. We have to.
And Danny, you know how he's saying he thinks Tua is going to be a really good starter. If you're a GM and you think a guy could be a really good starter, then you shouldn't think twice about it. Then you should absolutely make that trade. 100%. If you think Tua has a chance to be a really good starter and you can give up a 2 and a 4 and a 6 like they did for Darnold, then 100% they should do that. When I watch Tua, I don't see that. I loved him coming out. I will say, I loved is a strong word. I really liked him. I thought because of his accuracy and his mobility, I was like, this is legit. This dude. Now, I don't know if it's because he's left-handed or what, but it looks like he's got his whole body into every throw beyond 8 yards. Like, it looks like he lacks arm strength, and it hasn't been for me. But having said that, if you think he's really good, then you should move mountains because they don't have anything. They might as well give it a shot.
Nothing. They might as well. And that's all I'm saying. Like, he may not be, and I'm probably wrong about it. Like, I've been wrong 1,000 times because we don't settle that position here. But all right, we're 27 minutes into it. Let's talk about Sunday. There is a game this week. We go to Lambeau. I don't know if I think the TVs were in black and white last time we beat this team in Lambeau Field. What are the chances we make this a game on Sunday? I'll start with you, Danny. What do you forecast for Washington at Green Bay this Sunday?
So my buddy Reese Waters had a great line the other day where, with everything swirling around with the team and everything that happened during the week, we expected a certain outcome. We expected to lose the game, and yet somehow Washington ended up disappointing all of us. I think that's the way they do it. Green Bay will win this football game. But the most
Absolutely.
Washington thing possible, and as a lifelong Wizards/Bullets fan, I'm familiar with this. You expect a certain thing, you get they're getting blown out, and you go, screw this, I'm so pissed off. They do just enough to make you think they might come back and win the game, and then they break your heart all over again. It feels like that.
Oh, yeah.
They just don't have enough.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't have enough, and it turns out they don't have enough on defense, which is, by the way, just so galling. And I know we haven't spent much time on it, but it's stunning the way they've allocated resources and how poor that defense is played. So I think they'll somehow be competitive for parts of the game, implode on themselves, and Green Bay will end up winning that thing by double digits because they're just infinitely better at this point. Their first week aside, they're 5-0 since then, and they've been one of the better teams in the NFC, on track for another NFC title game. They've got one of the great quarterbacks ever to walk the planet, Aaron Rodgers, and they're just better than Washington in every way. So my expectation is for Washington to lose, but still somehow, despite me knowing that, still somehow make me miserable on Sunday.
Yep, that sounds like a very accurate depiction of how I see Sunday playing out as well. How about you, Grant?
I worry about Devontae Adams going for like $165. So that's my number one concern, I suppose.
What about the second half?
The Green Bay running game, I think, is actually going to be the story here. Like, it's been a while since the team just tried to push us over and maul us. And I think, Matt LaFleur, they got that thing going right now with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon from, I think it's Boston College is their number 2 guy. I think those 2 guys will combine for 35 carries and 165 yards. I think that's maybe they throw early to set up the run, but I think it's just kind of a death by paper cut situation. And one of those games where, it wouldn't surprise me if Heineke plays better. I think looks okay. I think it could be maybe a little closer than people think, maybe like a 31-20 kind of game, something like that, where in the end they just kind of, run the clock out and we, Washington's not able to get stops. But that's kind of how I see it. I just think, they are a better team. They're 5-1 with 5 straight wins for a reason. They've been in the NFC Championship game the last couple of years. But I think that the boys will play hard. I mean, that hasn't been an issue. So I think it could be a little closer than people think. And I kind of like the matchup of Washington's offense against Green Bay's defense. And I mentioned the stat earlier, but they have not got one red zone stop this year. When you get in the red zone, you score a touchdown. So if I'm Ron Rivera, enough with the especially with Chris Blewett, who's never kicked in the league, which is a weird thing. I'm not kicking field goals in this game if it's not 4th and 9 or I'm trying to go get touchdowns against this defense.
Oh, absolutely. And how I see the game playing out is pretty much what both of you said. We're going to play hard, and maybe for 2.5, 3 quarters, just like the Chiefs game, we're going to feel like we're in it. We're going to feel like we're in it. Wow, we actually came here to change the season, to turn things around. And as soon as that hope builds up, it's gonna shit on itself, because that's always how things happen here. And we're going to somehow get to a score of 34-17. That's the score prediction I'm gonna go with. But the 34-17 is gonna be a deceiving one, because it's gonna be 14-20, and we're gonna be 1 score away the whole game, and then it's gonna turn into a blowout, because the Chiefs game score, that score does not look like how the game actually. It took Mahomes 3 quarters to show up to the stadium. He was not there. His dumbass little brother was there, but he wasn't there for the first 3 quarters. And then he just turned up on us in the second half. And that's how I see it playing out. So what are your score predictions? And what do you see the record ending up being based on what you've seen so far? Because I see a 4 or 5 win football team. I'm looking at the schedule. I can't find too many W's on that schedule based on what I've seen so far. Maybe they make a move at the deadline, turn things around. Maybe not. Danny, give me a score for Sunday, and how do you see the record playing out for the team? And what do you want the record to be?
So Green Bay did this past week against Chicago, an offensively limited group that actually plays a lot better defense than Washington does. But they just did just enough to win, won by double digits, but kind of, they were never threatening that game. I see like a 27-15 kind of game, weird kicking situation. Maybe Cameron Cheeseman messes up the snap, and Ron Rivera will tell us about the operation and make a lot of excuses for Blewett. But just an offensively limited, gross, bad performance. They don't take advantage of bad defenses. They can't. They faced a bunch of bad ones, including the worst one in the sport. They managed 76 yards and 0 points in the second half. That will not happen again to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now everybody is re-legislating after the fact, by the way. Well, they have some playmakers. Sure they do. It's an NFL football team. That defense sucks. That will not happen again over the course of the season. In terms of overall record, I think they'll sneak 1 win out where we don't think they're going to get one. I think ultimately they end up at 5-12, just outside of that great draft spot, just outside of where the Jets, Jaguars, and a couple of Detroit, the really terrible teams are. And we're going to have to do a thing just because we made sure we beat the Giants on a bullshit offsides. Have to mortgage all sorts of picks to move up 1 spot to take a quarterback that won't pan out. And we'll do this for another 7-8 years.
That sounds about right.
So uplifting. Thank you, Danny. I think they find a way to get to 6 wins. They play so many division games at the end of the year. And oftentimes, you go into those games, right now, it looks like Dallas could work them twice, but who knows who's healthy and who isn't by then.
They may be resting starters by the second time we play them.
Totally. The Eagles, that's 2 winnable games, right? So, I think there's wins here that we may not forecast just yet. So I'll say they get to 6-11. This weekend, I think I said 31-20. I'll ride with that. Maybe 31-17, something like that. But I think both teams are within 10 points most of the way, because I really do believe, I know Danny said that they didn't take advantage of the Chiefs. I mean, earlier in the year, they did take advantage of some bad defenses. The Giants weren't playing well, went for 400 yards, 34 points. Falcons weren't playing well. They went for, 400 yards and 30 points. So I think they'll be able to do some things offensively they didn't do last week. And I think McLaurin's due. I think Terry goes for a buck in this game too. So I'd like to see him make a couple big plays down the field. Heineke just hadn't hit him. And if he's not hitting him in this game, maybe you go to Allen or something and see if you can chalk something up on a 40-yard throw or something. But yeah, give me Green Bay by 10 or so.
Okay, so we got 5 and 6 wins. Yep, I'm saying 5 wins sounds like they are like it would be totally Washington of us to run off like 3 in a row to end the year for no reason, just to like feel good, a feel good story to end the year. We left the year with momentum, and then we go from like picking 3rd to like picking 9th or 10th in the draft and having to do the most to get the quarterback that we dream about. But yeah, and for Terry McLaurin, we don't deserve that guy. I hope we have a blank check sitting for him in the offseason, because like other than him just being a great guy, why would he want to return here? Like, this guy's played for 12 quarterbacks in 3 years and has done nothing but be the perfect, like JP and them say, he's a coach's dream. How many quarterbacks do you need to run through and recycle before you say, you know what, I may find greener pastures elsewhere? Like, with Terry, do you just pay him in the offseason? Do you just write him a blank check? Like, what are we doing with Terry?
I would. I mean, it's such a premium on offense. I mean, it's an offensive league, and they've invested 7 of their top 9 contracts are on defense, 5 first-round draft picks, that all line up within 3 yards of the football. And that side has been disastrous. They are not built correctly, number one, going into this thing. But beyond that, offense is such a premium, and you need weapons. You cannot afford to lose Terry McLaurin. And that was one of the points I was kind of beating the drum on. When first-round picks aren't made in a vacuum, the whole point of a first-round pick isn't someone that's just here for a couple years and you say thank you. You want building blocks, second contracts. The ideal scenario is that person outperforms their rookie deal. Then you can't wait to pay them, because they are, again, an essential part of your team.
Right.
And you look up and they've been here for a decade. That's the goal. Ryan Kerrigan is what it should look like, right? So when you extend John Allen, now Daron Payne's going to be up, Montez Sweat's going to be up soon. They need to start prioritizing that side of the football, and who's better than Terry McLaurin at this stage? So 100%, he deserves a massive pay raise. So they absolutely should consider doing that here this offseason.
He's on that Allen Robinson path where it's like you look up, you've been in the league 8-9 years, and you've never had a good quarterback.
Not once.
It just got to get old for him. I'm just thinking about the last couple of weeks. I mean, he's got to hear that Marshawn Lattimore shut him down when he was beating him, and he can't get the football. And then this past week, he's close to a couple long passes, neither of which were thrown well enough to get home. Like, I just think it's got to get old. But you pay him, he stays. So let's pay him.
Let's pay him. And that's enough football. And I know you guys got to run. But before y'all go, I know you guys like to do a lot of movie and show shtick on your show. Are you guys watching Dune this weekend?
No foul.
I will be. That's the least Grant movie possible. There are movies
Grant doesn't like nice
Grants,
movies.
And then there are movies that are not Grant's. This is the most not Grant movie possible. I tried once. This
you don't know what Dune is.
Well, Grant doesn't remember this, but there was some commercial or something, like Darius and I, our producer, were talking about Dune, because Darius is a dork just like me. He's in. We can't wait. We've been kicking around. And I was like, I hope they get this right. I hope they nail the different factions and take the time, because Frank Herbert took so much time, built this huge universe. Everything is sci-fi fantasy is borrowed from this universe. And Grant was on his phone, was like, texting, doing something legitimate. And he looked up and he was like, what are you guys talking about? And I started to try to explain Dune to him. And his eyes did this thing I've never seen him do. They didn't roll back in his head. They sort of, almost like a lizard shuddering. Like that was it. Like he looked at me for about 3 seconds and then just went right back down to his phone and found something else to do. And Darius and I kept talking. So Grant is out. I'm in.
So much college football and pro football this weekend. There's no time for that.
Listen, Grant, this is going to be probably the movie of the year. It's Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, Jason Momoa. It's a great cast. It's going to be sci-fi greatness. You don't even have to go to the theater.
Josh Brolin, Oscar Isaac. I mean, dude.
Yes, it's insane. The cast
so is it coming to theaters, or are we still doing like a weird app bit?
Oh,
Both.
it's theaters and HBO Max if you have it. And
Okay,
it's
I
like
got that.
the dual release thing. And this is like slated to be possibly the film of the year. So you definitely want to check that out. And did you ever give Game of Thrones a chance, by the way, Grant?
I liked Game of Thrones what I watched, but the problem was it was so late in the game when I kind of started watching. I don't do like I'm 96 episodes and 8 seasons behind, and now I got to play catch up. So there's probably, now that there's not more to continually add to my pile, eventually I'll get through it. But I did watch like most of the first season. I loved it, but I didn't keep up with it. It's just, if I'm getting in on a show,
better, man.
I know, I bet, but I need like 2 or 3 seasons and like 15 episodes. Like I need quick satisfaction, you know?
Oh yeah, but yeah, that's gonna wrap today's episode. I appreciate you guys coming by to kick it with me. Y'all, I'm here anytime if y'all want to come through and air your grievances in an unfiltered fashion, because there's no FCC mandates here. You guys go ahead, plug your social media, it's your show. We can get out of here for today, man.
For me, at Funny Danny on Twitter, at Humorous Danny on the Instagram. Grant and I are on 2 to 6:30 p.m. on 1067 The Fan each and every weekday. GrantDanny.com. The Odyssey app's a great way. You can do some rewinding and all that other kind of stuff. It's a great way to check out the show. We have Terry McLaurin on every Monday for Washington football team fans. But yeah, man, we kind of do this without cursing most weekdays. So we have a lot of fun.
A Monday at 4 every week after games, 4 o'clock for Terry. So if you want to listen to him, that's the time to do it. He's been great, by the way. Love
awesome.
having him on the show. But yeah, it's kind of a filtered, as you said, version of just a lot of complaining and being frustrated. And you know, when they win, we go crazy and over the top, and we pretend like they're going to the Super Bowl because that's what the fan base wants to hear, right? But we haven't gotten a lot of those opportunities this season, unfortunately. But yeah, 2 to 6:30 every day at Grant H. Paulsen on Twitter.
Absolutely. And you got to treat every win like a Super Bowl when they're so few and far between. But until next time, hail to the nameless football team. Deuces.